I will call this meeting to order, the regularly scheduled meeting of the Transportation Public Works Committee, this day, May 19th, 2015. I'm Councilman Reich. I'll be chairing the committee. I'm joined by Council members Yang, Glidden, and Gordon. We are a quorum, and we'll be joined by our colleagues shortly. We are a quorum and can continue with the agenda. We have 14 items, including public hearings and discussion. I will go through the consent items. Any committee member can pull them for further conversation if they wish. Item 4 on the consent is the water quality monitoring reimbursement and authorizing execution of a cost-sharing agreement with the MPCA for the city to collect stormwater samples at the 37th Avenue North Greenway stormwater system and share lab results with that entity, increasing the appropriation of the stormwater fund by $25,000 to reflect that activity. This will be referred to the Ways and Means Committee. Number 5 is the RFP for historic structures report for PV Plaza, and that's to issue RFPs for that project. Item 6 is the Special Service District charge cancellation, and that's a cancellation of West Broadway Improvement Special Service District charge in the amount of $85.78 for the property located at 1817 and a half West Broadway for taxes payable 2015. Item 7 is the 2015 alley resurfacing program project designation. It's to designate the areas of the work, and the amount cost estimate is $268,546.67, and directing the city engineer to prepare proposed special assessments and set the public hearing for July 14, 2015. Item 8 is the 28th Street East and 33rd Avenue South Alley construction project designation, designating those locations and receiving the cost estimate of $165,000, and directing the city engineer to set special assessments and the public hearing to be set at July 14, 2015. Item 9 is the Gateway Park 2nd Street Bicycle Connection Trail Easement, and that's authorizing negotiation of execution of agreement for the acquisition of trail easements at the Towers Condominium Association, a budding property owner for the Gateway Park 2nd Street Bicycle Connection. And item 10 is the 26th Avenue North renovation project MOU, approving a resolution executing that MOU with the Minneapolis Park and Rec to permit the city to perform work at the Theodore Wirth Park and Fairview Parks, and requiring the Park and Rec to maintain ground cover and trees within the center median of 26th Avenue North in the Theodore Wirth Park in conjunction with the 26th Avenue North Street renovation project. That will be referred to Ways and Means. Item 11 is the authorizing submittal of an application for Tiger 2015 grant to implement the 35W Transit Access Project. That also will be referred to Ways and Means. Nicollet Mall Street Reconstruction Project. This is authorizing an increase in the contract with the contractor by $90,000 for a revised contract total of $150,000 due to an increase in the number of property assessment calculations in the benefit area of the Nicollet Mall Street Reconstruction Project. That will be referred to Ways and Means. And the final consent item is the bids for storm sewer cleaning, accepting low bid of Sewer Services Incorporated for an estimated expenditure of $738,071.72 to furnish and deliver all labor, materials, and incidentals necessary for cleaning storm sewer system for the Surface Water and Sewer Division, and authorizing the proper city officers to execute a contract for the project in accordance with city specifications. That will be referred to Ways and Means. Those are the consent items before us, committee members. Does anyone wish to pull an item? I'm seeing none. I will move all items as submitted. All in favor say aye. Guess not. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Dissenting nay. Those items carry. We can now go to the public hearing part of our agenda, starting with item 1, which is a public hearing for the Powderhorn West Street Resurfacing Project. Good morning, Director Cockey.
Good morning, Mr. Chair. Mike Kennedy, our Director of Transportation Maintenance and Repair, will open this item.
Morning, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. Mike Kennedy. I'm the Director of Transportation Maintenance and Repair for Public Works. We're here this morning for the public hearing for the Powderhorn West Residential Project. On April 17th, 2015, the City Council designated the location, streets, and improvements proposed to be made in the Powderhorn West residential neighborhood. The cost estimate for the project is $1,397,796 and is financed by net debt, bonds, and special assessments. The Powderhorn West residential area is bounded as shown on the map on the overhead and in your packet. The street resurfacing will be a mill and overlay with plant mix asphalt. This paving project is scheduled to begin in late summer 2015 with curb and gutter work scheduled for June and will be constructed by the city's workforce. The street resurfacing special assessments were determined by applying the 2015 uniform assessment rates of 62 cents per square foot for non-residential properties and 21 cents per square foot for residential properties. The proposed total assessment amount for this project is $947,876.83 for this project. There was a pre-public hearing meeting held on May 14th last week, and we had about 11 people attend that. So our recommendation today is that you pass a resolution ordering the city engineer to proceed and do the work and adopt special assessments in the amount of $947,876.83 for this project, and pass a resolution requesting the Board of Estimate and Taxation to authorize the city to issue and sell assessment bonds in that said amount for this project. Are there any questions I can take?
Are there any questions per the presentation? Seeing none, I will open the public hearing. And this is a public hearing for item 1, Powderhorn West Street Resurfacing Project. Anyone signed in? No one is signed in. Does anyone wish to come forward? Does anyone wish to come forward? Seeing none, I will close the public hearing and move the item as presented by staff. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Dissenting nay. That carries. We'll move into our second public hearing, which is the 50th and France Special Service District establishment.
Mr. Chair, Andy Carlson, who's our project manager for special service districts, will make this presentation.
Good morning.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, council members. This public hearing is for the consideration of the ordinance establishing the 50th and France Special Service District. A little bit of background. A steering committee of local business and property owners have been working with the Ward 13 Council Office as well as Public Works staff to explore various options to enhance their public streetscape and to have greater influence over the maintenance and operation of a city-owned parking lot which currently serves local businesses. This work has led to the steering committee to consider establishing a special service district at the intersection of 50th and France. As many of you know, a special service district allows property owners in a commercial district to collectively assess themselves each year to create a pool of funds which are directed back to the district in the form of special amenities and enhanced services. The steering committee has proposed an initial operating plan and budget that includes the maintenance and upkeep of the Ewing parking lot, that's the city-owned lot, as well as sidewalk services, which include snow removal and litter pickup. Having worked with staff, a draft operating plan and budget was created, and the steering committee proceeded to secure signed petitions from commercial property owners within the district. In addition, two open house meetings were held where members from the steering committee and city staff were available to answer questions, and those meetings were fairly well attended. The city attorney's office has since certified the petition to property owners complying with the requirements of Minnesota Statute 428A, certifying that those requirements have been met. The district's 2016, so this district will go into, if approved, will go into effect January 1st, 2016. The district's 2016 operating plan and budget will be brought before the City Council for review and approval later this fall as part of the annual budget approval process for all special service districts. At the same time, the district's assessment methodology will also require council approval. The proposed assessment methodology has the 4 property owners currently not paying into the maintenance of the Ewing lot exempt from those charges for at least the first year. And we'll speak more to that in the staff report when we come forward with their budget recommendation. The steering committee has recommended that the district be operated as a city-managed special service district. In a city-managed district, the city staff manages all aspects of the procurement process using the city's standard procedures for retaining services. In addition, the city retains direct responsibility for the oversight and implementation of services within the district. So that would be contrasted with a self-managed district, which would be similar to the DID. To guide the city-managed special service district, the city council appoints an advisory board. Typically, a board consists of 5 to 7 members, composed of property owners that are being assessed within the district. A separate request, and this will happen fairly shortly, will come before the city council to appoint those board members. With that, it's recommended city council adopts chapter 428 relating to the establishment of the 50th in France Special Service District.
Thank you. Any questions per the staff presentation? Seeing none, I will open the public hearing, and this is a public hearing for the 50th France Special Service District establishment. I do have people who signed in. I will call them in order. If they can come forward, state their name and address for the record, starting with Robert Sykes.
Thank you for getting my name right. My name is Robert Sykes. I am the president of the Calcibro Company Incorporated. We own a property at 5053 France Avenue South. I'm the second generation of my family that has tried to get a special service district here. We've been trying for 35 years. My father's now 94 years old, unable to participate. I think this is probably the best supported and best designed and organized approach to a special service district that has happened in those 35 years. I am speaking, of course, in support of it. I think one of the things that we've been trying to achieve is a comparable level of service to the Edina side across the street, across France Avenue from us. And I am particularly interested in the level of snow removal from sidewalks. In fact, the current plan in Minneapolis, I think, will actually be better than what's going on in Edina right now. I'm also, I also believe that in addition to the property owners who are supporting this effort, I think that the council might want to recognize that there are a number of public safety and general welfare problems out there that would be addressed by having better snow removal on a comprehensive basis in such a district. I won't try to enumerate those right now, but if you're interested, I'd be happy to answer questions.
Thank you for your testimony, and probably go down in the annals of a good example of determination and getting a result eventually. And I also will state with some civic pride or chauvinism that we will outperform Edina in part because there's opportunities to participate and self-govern by those who are in the area and our capable staff as well. So thank you very much. Moving forward, Laura Steffes.
I'm not speaking. I didn't realize that.
Understood.
I'm in support.
Oh, the record will reflect that support. Thank you. Item or number 3, we have Steve Young.
Hi there. My name is Steve Young. I own the property at 3717 West 50th Street. I'm with Arbor Commercial Group. I've been a property owner at 50th and France for over 15 years now. We have always been challenged with providing a streetscape customer experience that our customers expect at 50th and France. For example, during the winter, there are different levels of snow removal for each property, resulting in icy conditions and the loss of street parking. I also own commercial property in other business districts with special services districts. And I've seen the benefits they provide both property owners and business owners. Coordinated snow removal, parking lot maintenance, trash pickup are services that result in a uniform customer experience that benefit all stakeholders. We've received overwhelming support from the businesses and property owners in our district, and I'd like to thank you for considering to adopting this area as a special services district. Thank you.
Thank you. That's all I have on the list. Does anyone else wish to come forward and give some testimony? See none, I will close the public hearing and recognize Councilmember Palmisano.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just a couple of comments. First, I want to thank the steering committee members for all of their hard work, many of them who showed up today to show their support of the district, and the staff person for the 50th and France Business District, Steve Young, Robert Sykes, Rachel Thielman, and Laura Steffes and Jeffrey Chapman. The establishment of this district has been a long time coming, and I appreciate everybody's efforts for it since my arrival here. The relationship with Edina in a continuous commercial area is something we're always striving to improve, I will say. It was former Mayor R.T. Rybak who brought to my attention the very uneven shoulders, it seems, of this commercial area. And while people experience it as one, it really is part of 2 different municipalities, and we work to make that seem as seamless as possible. So if successful, this district will set the Minneapolis side of 50th and France on a course to match the high level of service provided to customers on the Edina side. I know the sidewalks will be more evenly shoveled and de-iced, and that'll make just traversing it that much easier and better. It will no longer pile up on the boulevards and in the street. I think business owners will benefit from consistent and prompt service provided by the Special Service District, and that the customers that shop there and the people that go there, and myself as someone going to daycare there twice a day, will be happier and safer for it. So thank you for your consideration.
Any further comments or questions from the committee? Seeing none, Councilor Palmisano, was that a move to approve?
Yes, sorry, I moved this item for approval.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Dissenting? That carries. Good work. Moving to our final public hearing, item 3, which is the Special Service District Ordinance Amendments. I believe we have Mr.
Yeah, just a quick note. Steve, we're going to try to get him a discount. He does have 4 properties in 4 different special service districts, so. All right, I tried. Thanks, guys, for coming.
Is that bundling deal that we're working on?
Okay. Mr. Chair and council members, this next item is public hearing to amend ordinances related to special service districts. Staff has been working with special service districts advisory boards for the past year to develop a number of process improvements, including, and there are 3, adding greater budget flexibility, modifying the composition of boards to better reflect realistic participation levels, and third, formally change the names of several districts to reflect district branding efforts. So I'll spend a little bit of time going through each one of these. The first one probably merits the most comment is the budget flexibility piece. For many years, special service district advisory boards have requested the ability to roll over surpluses or deficits from prior years to the current year to help maintain a more consistent assessment level and avoid major swings in the annual service charges. Under the current ordinance, the next opportunity to apply the budget surplus or deficit is not until the coming year's budget and service charges are adopted. This results in a 2-year cycle of applying surpluses and deficits. And the best way to illustrate this is with an example. A budget surplus in the year 2015 cannot be applied until the year 2017. So there's a 2-year delay in that. The same would apply in the case of a budget deficit. The proposed amendments would allow the current practice to continue, so that's still an option, but also allow for districts to reconcile those differences in the following year via a council action. This would give advisory boards the ability to roll over funds sooner or make decisions to modify current year service delivery to account for the previous year's deficit. So essentially allowing those service districts to treat their budgets like a business. If adopted, the ordinance as amended would allow advisory boards to recommend their preferred option to the city council in February of each year. If a district wishes to roll over a surplus or deficit, staff would bring forward the proposed budget amendment to city council in the spring of that year. So that's the first item, is this increased flexibility of rolling over budget surpluses or deficits. The other 2 are pretty straightforward. We have been working very diligently with business associations, your council staff, as well as other community leaders in identifying potential board members. And not anybody can serve on a special service district advisory board. Statute requires that you be a commercial property owner within the district or their appointed representative, such as a business tenant. So those constrictions have obviously poses some challenges for recruitment. While we have been successful in recruiting new board members, those longtime members have chosen not to be reappointed. So to reflect more realistic numbers in terms of board compositions, that's the second portion of the ordinance amendments. And then finally, we have some name changes that are more representative of the districts. So for example, we have Nicollet Avenue South, what we call the East Street Special Service District. We have South Hennepin Avenue, which will be called the Lowry Hill District, and then finally the 43rd Street West and Upton Avenue South. It just rolls right off the tongue, doesn't it? That's going to be called the Linden Hills District. So what we're already calling them will be reflected in the ordinance as well. So with that, all SSD advisory boards have made formal motions to advise the City Council that they wish these ordinance changes to be made. Some will want to take advantage of the flexibility offered in these changes this year. These changes may be made to the respective city ordinances without the need for changes enabling state statutes or laws. Therefore, it is recommended that the subject ordinance amendments be made.
Any questions per the presentation? Seeing none, I will then open the public hearing, and this is a public hearing for the Special Service District Ordinance Amendments as described in the presentation. Anyone sign in? Seeing no one has signed in, does anyone wish to come forward? Anyone wish to come forward? Seeing none, I will close the public hearing and move the item as presented. And just note that this is a great step for the districts. I know we had contemplated giving them more managerial flexibility through the legislative process, and we were advised that that might not be the best route for different reasons. And by working internally with our existing ordinances, you fashioned and forged a way to get much of what they were seeking through that process. So I appreciate that work, and I think we're going to find ourselves in a really good place with particularly our smaller or mid-sized special service districts. So I really applaud the work. With that, I will move the item as described. Any further discussion? Any further discussion? See none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Dissenting nay. That carries. Thank you. That concludes our public hearings, and we can now go to our final item, which is a discussion item. And it's a discussion item with our partner, the TMO, Director Cockey.
Good morning, Mr. Chair. John Wirtjes will actually start the presentation, and then we'll be handing it off to others.
Okay. Good morning.
Good morning, Chair Reich and council members. John Wirtjes, Director of Traffic and Parking Services. Today we've got an item related to the Downtown Transportation Management Organization, TMO. And maybe just to speak briefly to the letter that's in front of you today, and then we have invited Dan McLaughlin, the Executive Director for the TMO, to give you a short summary of things about and what the TMO is all about. So with that, to hit a few points on the letter today, we're bringing forth a reappointment of the committee board. What I would like to highlight on that reappointment of the current slate of members is 3 people are departing the TMO, and I'd like to take 2 seconds to recognize them. Tom Bravo from Hennepin County Medical Center, Michael Wickerman with U.S. Bank, as well as Tracy Pleshcourt with Olson Advertising. All 3 of them have done yeoman's work and yeowoman's work relative to the TMO, and so they've all kind of also at the same time recruited a replacement from their same organization. So Hennepin County Medical Center, U.S. Bank, and Olson have all found replacements. So I wanted to highlight that point. In addition to that, right now the TMO has a cap slate of 16 members. There's the second action in here is to expand the slate to include up to 22 members. So the board or the committee can be from 9 to 22 total members. And then the last item is to add 2 new members to the board. One of them sits in our midst, Councilmember Lisa Bender, and then the other one added to the list would be Dan Lesser with Mortensen will be joining the board. And so that's what the action is before you today. Without any too much work, or further conversation from my endpoint, I was going to turn to Dan, and Dan's got a short presentation about the TMO. So with that.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, council members. My name is Dan McLaughlin. I'm with the Downtown Minneapolis Transportation Management Organization. We do business as Commuter Connection. Well, we'll go. Okay, so a little bit of history. We were formed by council action in 1991. We are a private public partnership between the city of Minneapolis and the downtown business community that includes residents, business owners, property managers, and employers. At that time, it was recognized that a multimodal transportation system was needed to support the continued growth and prosperity of the downtown area. So this body was formed in an advisory capacity to the mayor and the city council to provide advice on transportation issues, but also to do some education outreach in the communities to promote sustainable transportation modes. Our primary funding is through a federal grant that comes through congestion mitigation and air quality dollars. So our mission is to advocate and promote a sustainable transit and transportation system that supports a vital and growing downtown Minneapolis. Our structure is set up. We have 4 committees. We have an executive committee, advocacy committee, nominating committee, and an outreach committee that oversees staff actions. We have key partners on staff, including members from the City of Minneapolis City Council, Mayor's Aide, and staff. Representative from the Downtown Council DID, members from Hennepin County and Metro Transit all participate on the board. And we have 4 staff members, myself, an outreach manager, communications, and ZAP program manager, and a store manager. So the question is, why do we have TMOs in the first place? The Clean Air Act is set up limits on what's an acceptable level of pollution in the area. Areas that are in compliance with those limits are in a maintenance area. Minneapolis, the Twin Cities area, is in a maintenance area right now, which means we currently bump up some of those limits, and occasionally we go over those limits and exceed those. But overall, at the end of the year, we're in a maintenance area. Areas that exceed limits beyond an acceptable level go into non-attainment. And in September, October this year, we expect the EPA to issue guidance to strengthen restrictions on ozone and possibly on fine particulate pollution. If those levels go into play, we will be moving from maintenance mode into non-attainment. And what we do now on a voluntary level with businesses and with residents and property managers will be moved into a regulatory approach to get us back into attainment. So how do we do that? We do it through travel demand management, also known as transportation demand management, and the abbreviation or acronym is TDM, which is kind of unfortunate abbreviation for the work we do. The federal government sends CMAQ funds to the Met Council. The Met Council then sends it to Metro Transit. Metro Transit sends it to Minneapolis, City of Minneapolis. We work with John and his team, and it eventually arrives at the TMO. So our mission is then to pursue local partnerships in the community, identify problems, and find local solutions to those problems. And you'll see that through the programming that we do. And this is opposed to a regulatory approach where maybe you have a one-size-fits-all approach that's stamped across a 13-county area. We feel it to be much less effective. And by going with local partnerships, we're able to work within the local business communities culture and set up programs that are going to be more successful than with a regulatory approach. So these are the 5 TMOs that are in operation in the 7-county area. You can see the little blue dot in the middle is us. 494 Commuter Services has cities participating all along the 494 and 394 corridor. Anoka County has its own TMO, and the city of St. Paul has its own TMO as well. All the areas shaded in light blue there are not covered by a specific TMO, and they're picked up by Metro Transit. They have the same level of staff to cover that area as we do to cover downtown. So our 2015 work plan, we have annual projects that we work on. We promote transit, rideshare, bicycling. We also do some regional promotions. For transit, we do run a transit store. Every dollar we get in congestion mitigation, air quality federal grants, we take that, we double it, and send it back to Metro Transit in terms of transit pass sales and Metro Pass signups for new companies that come into downtown. We get them to set up with a discount transit pass program, and that secures revenue for Metro Transit. So we are a nice investment, and we make a good return on that investment. We also register all carpools in downtown Minneapolis. What that means is we look at whether a carpool is viable. If it's reducing miles off the road, we approve it. If people are coming from Wisconsin, driving up to Brooklyn Center, then coming back down into the city, that's adding miles on the road, and we decline the carpool. We also run a ZAP Twin Cities program. Many of you are familiar with that program. I just want to point out that we do have corporate partners, and some really creative solutions have come out of that program as well. Hennepin County and the city employees both use that program to track their bicycle trips. It gives them a discount on their health insurance. Target Corporation has installed a Zap unit in their bike room, and it allows them to count the number of folks using that room. They had been using a badge pass, but what would happen is people would open the door, 8 bikes had come through, they'd lose their count. In addition to all of that, we do some regional promotions with the other TMOs. We work on Commuter Choice Awards, Bike Week. Congratulations, council member, on winning your race. Carpool Month, and Switch My Trip. This year, we're doing some special projects as well. We're launching a new spring outreach campaign. Metro Transit moved their outreach campaign to the fall. We felt like we needed to be out in front of all the construction that's going on downtown right now and help mitigate that by telling people about bus, biking, carpooling. So we partnered with a Minnesota Pollution Control Agency to develop a Breathe Easy campaign. And what it does is it raises awareness about the air quality index, gets people to sign up for air alerts when there's bad air days, and shows them how to take steps to reduce the number of bad air days we have and also reduce the length of time when we have them. So that's going on right now. Breathe Easy, mpls.org if you want to sign up for that. We're also looking at expanding our mission and rebranding. The board has directed us to look at expanding our outreach to residents. We primarily focused on employers at this time, but with the increasing residential population, we're looking at ways we can reach out to some property managers and maybe bring our messages that we bring to employers to downtown residents and also visitors. So the Visitor Information Center project, we're looking at moving into a partnership with CenterPoint Energy and also Meet Minneapolis and St. Croix Marketing to open a visitor center. That open date has been pushed back to August 1st. The TMO will operate a transit store. Within that, it will be a seamless customer experience. When you walk in, you won't see a name tag that says TMO employee, Meet Minneapolis employee, or St. Croix employee. It'll be a seamless experience. You can purchase items. There'll be local Minnesota made products there as well, trip plans. And what we're hoping to do is take visitors out of cars coming in from the airport, getting them on the light rail, and getting them to hop off right at 5th and Nicollet. That's where the Visitor Information Center will be. Come into our store, we'll direct them to their hotel and show them how to use our wonderful transportation system. We're also going to be starting a residential outreach pilot. We started that this past weekend with the Downtown Living Expo. They did a soft launch this past weekend. They're going to do a hard launch in September. And we're going to work with some, try to identify a couple of downtown property managers that are willing to work with us and see what the needs are and if we can help meet those. We're also redesigning a web and social media campaigns. We recognize that our shtick is face-to-face personal conversations with people, but we can't be everywhere at once, so a better designed website with an increased social media presence will help us get our message out. This includes developing onboarding videos, so when someone is new to downtown and they're a new employee, the HR manager can play a video before they talk about ethics and benefits and show transportation options in a more interesting light, get people to think, step out of their normal frame of reference on grab the keys, get in the car and drive, and maybe think about some alternatives. So I'd like to show you one of those. You can see that shows the benefits of choosing an alternative mode, and presumably if someone has a MetroPass program, before just handing people an enrollment form, the HR manager can show the video and maybe people can recognize some of the benefits that they would not already see I have one other video I'd like to show you. This is for carpooling, and what's really interesting about carpooling in downtown, since the new stadium has come up and all those surface lots went away, demand for carpool parking has increased, or for parking has increased in downtown in this section of the world. So all of our private partners pulled out of the carpool program because they can sell full price parking now. So we're looking for ways to increase parking at the ABC ramps in partnership with MnDOT and city staff. So let's see. This is a rough cut. It hasn't been color corrected yet. So those videos will be shown on our website when someone registers a carpool, but we're hoping to introduce these as an employer program as well to get the message out about benefits of carpooling, using the same lane to come in. And I have one more slide. Talk just a second about the budget. I mentioned that we're mostly funded through a federal grant. $330,000 comes from the CMAQ grant. We're required to come up with a 20% match of $82,000, so our operating budget is $413,000 roughly. New guidance has come down from the federal government on CMAQ grant expenditures, and the language says that admin costs will no longer be covered by federal grant. So we've approached the state and asked for some help to cover some of those expenses, and that bill is working its way through the legislature. I'd let you know about that. There is some consideration from Met Council to reduce our grant, our CMAQ grant, by a proportionate amount, and if you have any sway, we'd like to recommend that perhaps we keep those dollars and use those state dollars to leverage the CMAQ dollars that we have. So thank you. If you have any questions.
Councilmember Gordon.
I have a question, or I'd like to hear a little bit more about the goals or the targets that we have. It seems like there's some interest in shifting the mode away from the single occupancy vehicle. Are we doing a good job of keeping track of that, those trips that come in and out of downtown? And are we trying to look at where we want to shift some of those to transit, carpools, biking? And how are we doing if we are tracking it?
3 years ago, we didn't have the programming in place to do that, but we've been working for the past 3 years to get to a point where we can have some measurements in that regard. So one of the things about Metro Transit is they do have numbers on MetroPass enrollment, so they're getting reports to us now. So I know, for example, that there's a top 5 employer in downtown Minneapolis that has a 75% transit rate at their organization. So it's doable to move those numbers up with our existing programs and infrastructure. And I didn't know that before. We have others in the top 10 that are in the 60% range. So we can measure those transit numbers pretty effectively through that Transit Pass program. The problem is a lot of folks have go-to cards, and those aren't associated with any employer. And Metro Transit doesn't ask when people register those cards if they're associated with an employer. So there's a big hole in the data that we've got. Typically, that's with smaller businesses that don't qualify for a MetroPass program. So we're kind of missing out on the small business aspect on the transit piece. All the carpools that come into downtown Minneapolis are registered through a carpool system, and we've been working with John and his staff to move the carpool registration system into the 20th century. It's now an online system. It used to take 7 to 10 days to register a carpool. Now it takes 7 to 10 minutes. From that, everything is Google mapped on where the people live, where they're coming in. So we know VMT, we know trips. That data is coming to us as well, and we know where the employers are, and we know by property as well. For ZAP Twin Cities, the bicycle program, that was a major hole in our efforts, and we were concerned that with attitudes at the federal level about wasting federal dollars, what are we doing promoting bicycling? What's the measurable impact of that? Well, now we have about 2,300 people registered in downtown Minneapolis for ZAP Twin Cities over the past 3.5 years. Those folks have biked 1.5 million miles, so small little trips add up. So with those three components, we can now approach an employer in a tower and say, you know what, the average transit rate with a MetroPass is this, the average bike rate is this, the average carpool rate is this. You're here, how can we work with you to boost you up? And here are some tools that other companies are using. So we're at that point now where we can start to do that, but it's taken us some time to get there.
But for the whole downtown, do we know how many people come in a day, for example? This is kind of what I'm after. If we take 100% of the trips that come into downtown, and we start thinking about, well, how many of those do we want to be in single occupancy vehicles? Do we have a goal for the mode share, what we want to see? What do we think it is now?
We follow guidelines from the city and what you guys provide us, and we work with you and the downtown council. So I believe you have a goal of 61% mode split by 2018, and we're trying to get to that. There's holes in our information on the transit side, and that's the biggest piece. We're working with Metro Transit to get there. We know exactly how many carpools are in, but not everyone registers their carpool. A lot of people get free parking downtown, and if they do, they have carpool partners. So not everyone has a ZAP tag. So I don't have all the numbers, but I know on average, and I can make comparisons now between organizations to help us get there.
61% was pretty good number. Thank you.
Yep.
Any further questions? Well, thank you for the presentation and the familiarization of the PSAs are always fun. And I very much appreciate the shift where it's not just the commuter aspect of how people move around downtown, but it's the people now that live there and how they move around. And then, of course, with the new center station at Nicollet Avenue, it reinforces the notion that people who visit also want to effectively move around, and it's kind of one big move around system. So, and the TMO is the thoughtful organization that works with the partners to be intentional about that system. So appreciate the work and the presentation, and of course the work of staff. And thanks. No more comments? All right. Thank you. I don't think there's an action with this discussion. Okay. Well, with that, we are adjourned. Oh, actually, there is an action. Yeah, the appointment action, sorry. So we don't receive and file, but we do have an appointment action, and that's before us. Any further conversation? I will move that. All in favor say aye. Aye. Dissenting nay. That carries. Okay. No, that's just an